I, 28M, am currently sitting in a small rental apartment that smells like fresh paint and cheap flooring, staring at my doorbell camera feed. 2 weeks ago, I lived in a 3-bedroom house with a woman I thought I'd marry. Now, I'm watching her sob on my new doorstep through my phone screen. It's pathetic, honestly. But to understand why I'm sitting here eating cold pizza instead of opening that door, you have to understand the night I finally stopped being a background character in my own life. My girlfriend, 27F, and I had been together for 3 years. For 2 of those years, her male best friend was like a constant, low-grade fever. He was the guy who called at 2 a.m. because he had a bad day. He was the guy who showed up uninvited to our anniversary dinner because he happened to be in the neighborhood. He was the guy she constantly defended with the same tired line. He's been in my life longer than you. The escalation happened on a Tuesday. I came home early from my job at the firm. I'm an analyst, so early means 6 p.m. I walked into our living room to find him sprawled on our sofa, shirt off, watching a movie while my girlfriend folded his laundry. Not our laundry. His laundry. He'd had a pipe burst at his place, and apparently that meant my girlfriend was now his personal maid, and the house was his new hotel. He didn't even look up. "Oh, hey man, can you grab me a soda since you're up?" I looked at my girlfriend. "We need to talk."
Now.
In the kitchen. She gave me that heavy, performative sigh she used whenever I was acting up. We got into the kitchen and I didn't hold back. I told her he needed to go and that the 24/7 access ended that day. I told her it was disrespectful and I was done. She leaned against the counter and gave me a look of pure entitlement. "You're being insecure. Again. It's honestly exhausting. He's been in my life since we were kids. You've been here for 3 years. He's family." I told her that family doesn't sit on my couch shirtless asking me for drinks while my girlfriend does his chores. Then she dropped the line that ended us. She said, "If you make me choose, I choose." She didn't even have to finish the sentence. The him was implied. She was so certain I was too weak to leave, so sure her longevity argument was a shield, that she dared me to walk. I didn't scream. I simply walked into the bedroom, pulled my suitcases from the closet, and started packing. "What are you doing?" she asked, following me. "I'm making the choice for you," I said. "I'm leaving. The lease is in both our names, but I paid the full security deposit and the last 3 months of rent solo while you were transitioning jobs. I'll be speaking to the landlord tomorrow." "You can't just leave," she shouted. "Who's going to pay the utilities? The car note is due on Friday." "Ask the guy on the couch," I said. As I walked out, I blocked her on everything. I spent the next 48 hours in a motel, then used my savings to secure a small place near my office. By day 4, the shock wore off and her entitlement kicked in. I got a notification from my banking app. A transfer of $4,000 had been initiated from our joint house fund to a private account I didn't recognize. Since she'd been unemployed for 6 months, 90% of that cash was my sweat and overtime. I immediately called the bank. Since it was a joint account, she could initiate it, but I managed to freeze it just in time by reporting a dissolution of assets. She wasn't mourning a relationship. She was hunting for a benefactor. I spent that evening digging. I logged into our shared laptop, which I'd taken since I paid for it, and found her logged into her social media. The pipe burst was a lie. They had planned the whole thing. The messages showed them laughing about how uptight I was and how, once he moved into the spare room, I'd be paying the rent for both of them while they figured out their business venture. They even joked about me being their silent investor. There were also photos. Photos in our bed, taken while I was at the office putting in 60-hour weeks. I felt a strange, icy calm. I called the landlord. In our state, if you're the primary payer, you can break a lease with 30-day notice if the household breaks down. I covered the final month to protect my credit and legally dissolved my responsibility. Then I contacted the car dealership. The SUV she drove? It was a lease in my name. I reported the vehicle's location and terminated the lease early. The entitlement reached a fever pitch on day 8. Since I had blocked her, she used her mother's phone to bombard me. Her mother called me a monster for leaving her with nothing. I replied with a PDF of the photos I found and a screenshot of the messages where my girlfriend joked about her mother being too senile to realize the best friend was staying over. The mother didn't text back. Then the best friend found my work email. He sent a message titled, "Grow up." He told me I owed her for the time she invested in me and threatened to come to my office for a man-to-man chat. A threat. In writing. To my professional email. On the morning of the 14th day, I sat in my car a block away from the old house. At 9 a.m. sharp, the tow truck pulled in. My girlfriend came running out in her pajamas, screaming that it was her car. The driver didn't care. He told her the leaseholder terminated the contract. 10 minutes later, the power went out. I had scheduled the utility shutoff for 9:30 a.m. The house went dark. No AC in the 90-degree heat. By 11 a.m., the best friend showed up at my office lobby. I didn't go down alone. I brought our head of security, an ex-cop, and my lawyer. The best friend looked ridiculous in a gym tank top, sweating and pacing. When he saw me, he lunged toward the glass vestibule, screaming that I left her with no lights. My lawyer stepped forward with a recorder. He informed him that he'd just committed assault by threat in front of witnesses and a HD camera. He also told him he was being served for the theft of my personal property, the laptop and furniture. I told him the landlord had been served with an eviction notice for unauthorized occupants. Since there was no power and the lease was terminated, the police were coming that evening to escort him off the premises. I also mentioned I'd called his gym. They weren't thrilled about him using work email to threaten people. His phone buzzed right then. He'd been fired. He turned around and walked out without a word. He didn't even go back to help her. He went straight to his parents' house. He chose himself, just like she said she would. The sobbing at my door started at 2:14 a.m. last night. She looked wrecked. No car, no money, and the best friend had dumped her the second things got difficult. I opened the door but stayed in the frame. He left me, she choked out. I have nowhere to go. Please. You can't just throw away 3 years. You threw it away in 30 seconds, I said. You told me he'd been in your life longer. I'm just honoring your request. Then she tried the ultimate move. She looked up at me and said, "I'm pregnant." I felt the world tilt for a second. Then I remembered the timeline. I remembered the photos and the dates. I pulled a manila envelope from the table. I'd found her medical records on the shared cloud. She'd visited a clinic 3 weeks ago for a consultation because she weren't sure who the father was, and the conception date was during a week I was away at a conference. Her face went. 2 halves blank. The sobbing stopped. The mask shattered. You spied on me, she whispered. I protected myself, I said. I told her that if she tried to put my name on a birth certificate, we'd be doing a court-ordered DNA test. If it wasn't mine, I'd sue for fraud. If it was, I'd seek full custody because she was homeless and unemployed. She had no answer. The entitlement had run dry. I closed the door and locked it. I heard her pounding on the wood for a while until the building's security I'd warned in advance escorted her out. I'm sitting here now, and it's quiet. It's not the life I planned, but as I heard that deadbolt click, I realized I'd won. Justice isn't always a gavel. Sometimes it's just the sound of a door locking while the person who tried to ruin you has to walk home in the dark. If you enjoyed watching this bridge burn to the ground, subscribe for more. I promise my next relationship will be at least 50% less toxic, or at least have a better soundtrack.